Okay, so first of all, obviously, thank you everyone for taking time out of your day to come and learn some Google ad campaign strategies. Nice to see a good turnout. The whole idea of this to start with is all about how you can get started. So it's very basic level, but it's a good idea to get going somewhere. So just before we begin, just to let you all know that I am, just double checking, yeah, I am recording. So you'll receive a link to the recording and the slides shortly after the webinar. Please stay muted. I think I've muted everyone, but just for the sake of those that are at home that may have barking dogs or home deliveries, please stay muted. And also, whilst I'm going through this, feel free to submit any questions that you have in the chat. We're going to hopefully have some time afterwards then to answer some questions. There's quite a lot to go through. In terms of what we'll be covering today, I'm going to focus mainly on the search network, purely because it is ultimately the main place to start. Although if you're e-commerce, then I will mention that shopping is something to consider as well, Google Shopping. I want to try and make this as easy as possible to understand as well. So I will be covering a lot over the next 45 minutes, which I'll go through in a moment. And also, if you are willing to share, then WebBox webinar is the hashtag. So feel free to share any insights that I can give you during this webinar. And let's get going. So first of all, just a little bit about myself. I'm your host. Obviously, I'm really excited to have you guys here and share some knowledge with you. I've been in the game for 12 years in digital marketing. I've mainly worked agency side. I've had the pleasure of working with clients such as Fever Tree, Universal Music, Pizza Express, and a few from Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy group, such as Benefit Cosmetics, Fresh, De Beers. So I've worked on the bigger scale projects, but also something that's close to me is working with smaller companies, SMEs, especially those that, seeing the growth go from just starting out to six figures to multiple six-figure businesses. So ambitious companies that want to really push themselves and get their brands out there. So for me, whereas working on bigger clients is great, and obviously having those brands to name drop, I think it's just as important, in my opinion, to help smaller companies and really kind of get them to grow. Seeing that is just as pleasing as it is obviously working with nice names. Sorry, I'm just letting a few more latecomers in. There we go. Okay, so that's just me in a nutshell. What we're going to go over in the next 45 minutes, it seems quite a lot, but some of the areas are going to be things I'm just going to glance on and then go into more detail when it comes down to kind of campaign strategies and so on. But I think because it's a starter level webinar or entry level webinar, I think it's important to get the foundations right as well. So we're going to go through obviously what, why, and how are Google Ads. We're going to look at how you can get started, research strategies, what campaign types there are, how to set a budget, how you structure the whole campaign and the projects that you are looking to run, right the way through to keywords, understanding what quality score is, looking at strategies for campaign level, ad level, and ad group level, and also landing pages and retargeting. Wow, I've got a few more latecomers. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to let these guys in as well. Bear with me. Okay. Right. I'm hoping that is everyone. To all the guys that have just joined, welcome. I'll just reiterate one more time, if you want to share with everyone within the chat, your business, what you do, because you never know, there might be someone on this call here that's looking for your product or services. Also, just to make you aware, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat as well. And yeah, let us know if you're just starting out or if you've done it, if you've done any AdWords before. So that's what we're going to be covering over the next 45 minutes. I think time's running on, so let's get started. So what is Google Ads? I'm sure all of you know who Google are. Google's advertising platform is pretty much the bulk of their $162 billion revenue. It came from Google Ads. It's ultimately, it turned what Google is as a search engine into now, which is ultimately an advertising platform. So why use Google Ads? Well, to start with, there's 3.5 billion searches being done a day on Google. So without doubt, your audience are on there. It's that link I've put at the bottom gives you an idea on a second by second basis of how many people are actually searching on Google at one time. Quite simply, Google Ads dominate the search results now. As I mentioned, they are an advertising platform. What they've ultimately done is driven everyone to use ads more than search. I think that's going to keep going in terms of understanding that from an SEO perspective, there is an opportunity there from an organic perspective, but having 4 ads are the first 4 things you see. And as users, when you're looking on Google, that's the main thing that you're going to use. So millions of people are clicking on these ads. Why else use Google Ads? Well, it harnesses the power of intent. So whereas you'll have other areas of advertising, ultimately, when you look at people specifically searching for your product or your service, Google Ads is certainly the place to start. And especially, as I mentioned before, search is the best place if you're going to get your feet wet. It's highly targeted as well. It's for Google Ads, if you're going to run adverts, you can be very specific on who you want to target, be it through search via keywords or be it by interests on using things like display ads, video ads, local. So there is definitely something for everyone. And as I mentioned before, you can see the numbers in terms of who's on the search engine looking for what you guys have to offer. It's also affordable. There's a stigma that Google Ads, yes, don't get me wrong, the competition can be high depending on what service you offer or what product you offer, but it is affordable if you did it right. And if you follow some of the steps that I'm going to give you, there is a way of reaching out to your audience in a more affordable way. As with all online marketing, it's very measurable. Using tracking, using Google Analytics, it's easily trackable and measurable in terms of understanding what works, what doesn't, and it's controllable. You can flick it off like a flick of a switch. It's a case of understanding what works and what doesn't, when your audiences are online, when they're actually looking at your products or looking for your services. And the more data you can get, the more you can understand then how you can control it in terms of the times of day that you show your ads, and certain periods where you don't, or certain periods where you want to really boost and beef up your advertising efforts. And also return on investment. It's not uncommon to see a 10 times ROI if it's set up correctly. So hopefully that will give you enough in terms of why you should use it. I'm not here to ultimately convince you to use it. I think it's based on how you want to run your business, but obviously you're here to learn more about it. And I think without being on it, Google or social media or any online marketing at the moment, especially with the times that we're going through, you can count yourself as obsolete in a way, because everyone's on here and this is where all the attention is. So that's why you should use Google Ads. Just a little bit on how Google Ads works. So ultimately, for those that have never put an advert up on AdWords or any Google platform, ultimately it's an auction system. So on the face of it, the more you bid, the higher you become, but it's not specifically that. It's based on quality as well as how much you bid for. So where you've got a traditional auction system where obviously you bid the highest and you win the product, in this case you show higher. It's also about relevancy and quality. So where your ads go, who they show to, what are the keywords on those ads. So these are stuff that I'll be going through later on in the presentation. Ultimately, you create campaigns, you create ad groups, and then you create ads. You target them by keywords. You can target by interest if you're doing stuff like the search network, and you can set your own budget as well. So that's pretty much how it works. I will go through it in more detail as we go along. So hopefully you'll get a better idea. So first of all, then, getting started with ads. A lot of people shy away from it because there's a lot of information. When you log in or start an account, there's a hell of a lot of information there, and it can become quite daunting. There's a lot of options in terms of where you put your advertising, where you put your budget. So it's when getting started, it's best to be as simple as possible. Keep it simple. Start small. Start if you're looking at starting either selling a service or selling products, then search or shopping, ultimately I'd recommend be the first place to start, and do your research. So before you actually put any money in Google's pocket, have a look at who your customers are, have a look at the keywords that you're going to target, and really get an idea when you start, if you're going to start small, how to do that. And that's what we'll be going through shortly. Set a small budget, make sure it's affordable as well. Hopefully the information that I'll give you here will save you a lot of money in terms of waste, but at the same time, it's good to make sure that when you do have a budget, you start small. This is one of the biggest things that approaches that I've found when starting any AdWords campaign is hypothesize, test, and pivot. What I mean by that is when you're looking at things like your audiences, when you're looking at keywords, you're looking at hooks to get people to click on those ads and come through to your website, start hypothesizing and thinking about how you can use not just the right keywords, but the right conversation within your ads and the right headlines. As I said, the beauty with this is it's all measurable. So once you've hypothesized and you've put something out there on a small scale, you've then got the ability to test it. So you analyze what's working and what isn't. You can test it in terms of looking at multiple ads at the same time on a A/B testing process, where you can then understand which ads work better than others, and then have the ability to pivot. So leading on to the last thing about being patient, this is the one thing, if I was to ask you to do anything, would be patient with your ads campaign. Yes, in comparison to SEO, it works a lot quicker. You get a lot more data. You can get a lot more traffic to your site far quicker than you could with an SEO campaign, especially if you're getting started. But the main thing is be patient, because not everything happens overnight. One thing I'll go through as well in terms of understanding that users, 98% of users will not purchase on their first visit. So it's good to understand that, let things run, make sure that if you are keeping it on a smaller scale, you can identify what's working and what isn't, rather than getting lost and having far too many campaigns, ads, ad groups, keywords, etc. So moving on, research being the first place to start, as I've mentioned. What we're going to cover here is personas, keywords, and your competitors. So before you begin any AdWords campaign, even before you start setting up an account, understand who you're trying to target. So ways you could do this: speak to your current customers, which obviously if you're not purely just started, you'll have an idea of who your current customers are. Be as specific as possible. It's personas are something that you can always relate to, and this goes for any sort of campaign that you're running, whether it's social media ads, whether it's organic, whether it's just purely community management on social media platforms. Having a persona, I would say maximum 3 to start with, is a really good way of identifying then everything you're doing, whether you're creating these ads, to understand who your audience are. So here's an example here where you can see what are their goals. So some of your target audiences, maybe they're just to learn more about your product or service rather than having the knowledge to actually just go in, understand maybe the jargon that's used in your industry. And what they're there to do, what these personas are there to do is really give you an idea in terms of how you can structure your ads and where you're going to lead them to. So this one here, for example, Emily Extrovert, you can get an idea of what her personality is if she's a marketing manager. So for example, if I was doing an advert to marketing managers and sending them to certain pages, they would likely understand the lingo as a lingo for marketing and understand the abbreviations and so on, rather than someone who is for example, a business owner that may not have a focus on marketing at all. They may not know what a CPC is or a return on ad spend means. So based on what those personas are, should be the initial foundation of how you're going to create these ads and the wording that you're going to use, and obviously the content that you're going to send them to. So personas is definitely the first place to start. Keyword research. So ultimately, when we're looking at search platform, keyword research is the first, other than obviously personas, is when you start really digging into your account and understanding what people are likely to search for to find your product or your service. So using the keyword planner tool. So for those that have never been in an AdWords account, when you create an account, you'll have a tab at the top that says tools, and you've got the option then to go into keyword planner, put in a few keywords, and then what Google will do will spit out a load of variations of those keywords or alternatives or ones that are just as relevant as the initial keywords that you put in. And what you'll get out of this ultimately is your average monthly searches. So how many people are obviously on average searching for that keyword or typing that keyword in and looking. Also, what it will also do is give you an idea, a rough estimate of top of page bids. So the cost of that keyword. So this will give you a really good idea in terms of where you want to set your budget, what keywords you initially want to target, and also obviously the average cost that it's likely to cost you. Now, one thing I will mention is take these costs as a pinch of salt. Going into what I mentioned earlier about quality score and what I'll talk about more further down the line, this will also determine how much you pay and where you show. So just use it as a guide to start with, but as you create an account and you get it live, that's when you'll really start to see what the true figures are in terms of cost per clicks and customers and users coming to your website. But ultimately, use the keyword planner and also use Google. Have a look on what others are, what you would type in from a user's point of view. If you were putting yourself in your customer's shoes, what would they type in? Google gives suggested keywords, so they autofill as you put them in at the top of Google, and you'll also see them at the bottom of the page as well. So you can use those because it gives you an idea of other search terms that Google are looking for, that users are looking for, sorry. And also then competitor research. This is a really good tool. It's called, if I've pronounced it right, Ispionage. Ispionage, there is a free element to it. Obviously, there's a paid element as well, but you could sign up for free. You would put your competitor's URL, and as you can see by this example here, it gives you an idea of what keywords they're going after, what their ads look like, what their landing pages are, what organic keywords they're also showing up for, and how many you're competing against. So this is a really good tool when looking at competitor research, but you can also use it obviously to find potential keywords as well. So I recommend you use Espionage and trial it out, have a go. So campaign types then. There's loads of different options. As I mentioned, we're going to focus on search network, but ultimately there's different products that Google have, and it is all based around who you want to target, how you want to target, what your goal is, and where you want to show up. So we'll be going through, I'll go through, touch on each one of these individually just to give you an idea, as I am going through search, but ultimately there's options here based on obviously what your company does and who your audience are. So as I mentioned, the search network, this is the most popular by far. It's the original. It's the first kind of foray into advertising that Google used. And as I mentioned, it's the reason they're a multi-billion dollar company now. Its search network is based on text ads. So it's highly based on intent. So again, straightforward. I have mentioned this before. It is a case of what people are typing in, and they will come up on the first 4 ads on Google search. What it's really good for is conversions. It's conversion led, especially if people are typing in keywords like buy and for sale, then that's ultimately where you'll get the ads come up. What's really good about Google Ads search network as well is, even though people know that an ad is an ad, most people that click on ads are in a position to purchase. So where you'll find others that may scroll down and go to the organic side of things, what you normally find is they are, sorry, I've got another entry coming in. What you'll find is they are on a research mode if they're looking at organic, whereas if they click on the ad, they're highly likely to convert into sales. And then there's the display network. So this came out shortly after. Display network is more about brand awareness. So what you'll find is the cost per clicks will be a lot less. However, you'll be shown to a lot more people, and the amount of people that click on these ads are going to be far less than obviously someone typing in Google and having that intent. So this is where you can display images, videos, can display text ads, although not a lot of people do that anymore, as obviously video and images are so much more higher converting. And these ads show up across different websites across the internet, where people that might, and this is where the brand awareness more than the intent comes in, is understanding that people are on these websites not necessarily looking for your product or your service. What they're doing is, like myself here, looking at this new Lego Colosseum set. I'm not necessarily out there to purchase an Xbox. However, based on my interests, Google knows that I have been looking at an Xbox with Christmas coming along, and my kids wanting one for Christmas. So hence why I'm being shown these ads. So it's really good for brand awareness. It's also good for what we call retargeting, which I'll also touch on later. So ultimately, that's the display network. Shopping campaigns. So if you are a retailer out there, the one caveat I'll have about starting search first ultimately is start with shopping. The reason why is you've got an opportunity to show your products at the top of Google. So rather than have just a text ad and you want to really showcase your products, then certainly go down the shopping route to start rather than the search route. It's more visual. They show on multiple platforms and partnerships with Google, but also it's an easy way to upload using a product feed, uploading a lot more products than just solely targeting on those search ads. So that's shopping campaigns. Next on Google's product lists, video ads. This is ultimately where you show your ads across YouTube. Obviously, Google own YouTube. So they've pushed a lot of advertising on here using multiple different format choices. So you've got a wide range here from driving conversions to customer video campaigns, skippable ads. You can have bumper ads. So there's all these different options within video. Local campaigns. So again, if you're looking to drive people locally through in-store visits, you can show ads on Google My Business and through maps as well, as the examples show here. So this is really good if you want to drive in-store visits, or you're really only focusing on a certain area within your local, within your local cities or towns. This is a really good place in terms of capturing those audiences that are on their mobile, that are looking for your product or services and using terms like near me. Also, from a click-through rate, people rely on maps, they rely on business pages, especially if you've got good reviews. So it can be really good in terms of your cost per click and people actually coming to find you. So that's local campaigns. This is specifically, app campaigns are specifically for those that want to drive app purchases. So again, if you're a company online here and you have an app that you want to promote, then you can ultimately use app campaigns. So this is quite straightforward in terms of setting this up. You provide some text, you put a starting bid and a budget in, and what Google will do will then drive your ads using multiple platforms. So this is a really good way to promote your app. There's also a thing called smart campaigns. All depending on ambition, in my opinion. Smart campaigns are a really quick set and forget beginner's way of starting an ad campaign. In my opinion, there are a few things that really limit you in terms of how these work. So Google ultimately controls it. You're very limited in terms of what ads you can put up, the number of ads, the data that you're shown, and really limited on growth. So if you're gonna go down the route of using smart campaigns, it's a set and forget, but it just doesn't let you grow. So for those companies that just want to start off really small but have no intention of growing, then use smart campaigns. But ultimately, I tend to stay away from them because of the lack of data and the lack of control and the fact that you can't grow an account using it. So that's smart campaigns. Moving on then. Probably the most question I get from anyone that wants to start a Google ad campaign is, how much should I spend? Now, this obviously is determined by a number of factors. Ultimately, do you have a marketing budget up front? Have you set an amount that you're willing to spend over the course of a year, for example? The market will also determine this in terms of competitiveness. So the way Google ads work from an auction perspective is the cost per click could start as little as 5p, but the market determines how expensive those clicks can be. So to give you an example, if you're in the life insurance game, you're looking to spend about £100 per click. And that is not because Google have forced that up. It's because the market have. It's because it's so competitive that if you want to go after that specific keyword, you're going to have to dig deep from a budget point of view. So when we're looking at setting budgets and helping customers and clients set budgets for a starter campaign or a new campaign that they want to grow and utilize, ultimately what we look to do is work backwards. So understand like how much profit per sale do you make? That's the first thing you want to find out. What is the lifetime value of your customer as well? So how much are you willing to pay for that customer? What are they going to be worth, not just to get to your site and convert the first time and you sell a product and there you go, but ultimately, if you've got the option or the opportunity to keep those customers and have them repeat buying, then understanding what the average lifetime value or the average order value of those customers are is a really good way to then realize, right, how can I set a budget? How much am I willing to pay Google for this customer? So start off at the top and work your way backwards. Another thing to look at, ultimately, this is very difficult if you haven't started, but what is the conversion rate on your website? If I'm sending someone, if I'm paying £10 or £2 or £100 for someone to come to my website, how is it converting? These are things that you can find out as you go along with the data that you can gather through analytics. But ultimately, a place to start is say, right, okay, if we could convert our customers at 1%, so for every 10 customer, or say every 100 clicks that you get, one of those convert. And if they do convert based on our average order value or based on the profit that we make off that one sale, is it worth, or how much is it worth me paying for that customer? So again, for those that are just starting, you can start off small, get this data to understand, and then you can, as I mentioned, test and pivot in terms of what areas that you want to use and what areas you want to go in and where you want to focus your spend. So coming on to structure now, this is ultimately the key area for any AdWords campaign. So for those that have never been in an account, the first thing you do, you have a basic structure, which is ultimately your account is your company. It's where you set it up. Obviously, for an agency, for us, we have multiple accounts, but your account is your business as a whole. So the structure here goes down in quite a granular level. So you'll have the account, then it goes into campaigns. Your campaigns are then based on ad groups, and then within those ad groups, you'll have specific ads and obviously the keywords that you're showing up for. So when starting, you register your account, you then go into and set different campaigns. And I'll go through each one of those through a strategy now. Also, there's a thing called keyword types. So without trying to confuse you too much, there are 4 separate types of, there are 5, but I didn't want to really kind of confuse everyone in terms of all the granularity that you can go in terms of looking at keyword types. But ultimately, there's these 4 or 3 that I'll run through, plus negative keywords. So broad match, ultimately your broad match keywords are, you will get more clicks and you will get more reach within broad match. But where broad match is different is it's generally related to things like synonyms, and you can show up. So let's say, for example, you've got target the keyword laptop case. Your ad will likely show up for other searches like computer bags, for example. So Google will recognize that it's a broad match. With broad match, where it's something to consider is you may possibly waste a lot of spend because you're showing up for keywords that Google thinks are relevant, but may not be. So an example of this that I had is a company that sold pickup trucks. We looked at their accounts prior to coming and using us as an agency. And when I looked at it instantly, I seen that they were wasting £500 a month or thereabouts on a search term, which was pickup lines and things like chat up lines. So someone that was typing in pickup lines, they were showing for, people were clicking on the ad, realizing that it was actually selling pickup trucks and left. So instantly, they were wasting money on keywords that were completely irrelevant to them. So then you've got phrase match. So phrase match, it's keywords that must include the term you're bidding on, uninterrupted and in order, but may not include other terms before or after. So this is where you'll have a phrase where you might have separate other words within those phrases, either before or after the phrase. So again, this will give you a little bit more leeway in terms of how your what keywords your ads are showing up for. Ultimately, it will mean that you're showing up for a lot more keywords around those phrases. So another keyword type that you'll have the option to use is what we call exact match. Originally, it was specifically the keyword that you would put in. So if I put in red handbag, for example, women's red handbag, it will only show for that search term and nothing else. However, Google have now changed it slightly where exact match, even though you have a specific term, if there are slight variations of it, like the word on or a, so you might put a women's red handbag rather than just women's red handbags, then you're likely going to show for that as well. What you'll also come across in your account are negative keywords. So this is ultimately when you set up your ad account and you're starting to run your ads live, you'll start to notice then that Google, especially if you're using broad match and phrase match, that your ads are going to start showing for search terms that you don't want. So when what a negative keyword is ultimately a keyword with the negative sign, the minus sign before it, and it's telling Google that you do not want to show for that specific term. So as you're managing the account and you're seeing what ads that you're getting impressions for and you're showing for, you can easily then start to add those negative keywords in and ultimately tell Google you do not want to show for them. So what I mentioned before regarding how this auction system, which is Google Ads, is a little bit different than traditional auction systems. So yes, you have to bid a certain amount to be able to get to the top of page 1, for example, for your advert. But what Google really look at as well is the quality. So they have a quality score system in place. They have a quality score system in place where ultimately you are awarded based on how good your quality score is. And the quality score have different elements to it. Your first one is your CTR, your click-through rate. So if this all boils down to relevancy. So if your ads are very specific in terms of someone types in a specific search term, that search term is within your ad and it's improving your click-through rate. So more people are clicking on your ad, let's say on position 4, than those on position 2, 3, 2, or 1, then you're going to be rewarded for it because Google sees that your click-through rate is higher, therefore your ads must be more relevant than those above you. Also, looking at the whole structure of your account, so the relevancy within your ad groups as well. So if you've got a set of keywords within an ad group that are more relevant than, say, your competitors' ad group, then again, your score is going to be higher. And also they take into account landing page quality and relevance. So for example, if I am looking for men's black shirts, for example, I see an ad, I click on it and it takes me to the home page. Therefore, I then have to click on men's, I have to click on men's clothing, I have to click through to shirts, I then have to look for men's black shirts. Ultimately, the relevancy of that landing page is going to give you a poor score because it's not giving me, the user, exactly what I want. So understanding where you're sending your users and being as specific as possible in terms of those ads or those keywords that you're using will also improve your quality score. The relevancy of your ads and text, I've mentioned that. So again, making sure that when you've got an account and you've structured it in the right way, that everything is relevant to what people are searching for, where they're landing, are they getting the specific experience and the better experience that you want. So these are things to really consider when you're starting out, because to get a good quality score ultimately means, and we see this all the time, is your ads will show up higher than your competitors, but at less cost per click. So it's not all just about bidding the highest. It's about knowing that you've got let's say a quality account that's giving users a much better experience, and Google will reward you for that. The last kind of factor within quality score is historical ad performance. So if you're gonna, obviously this is something that those that have started off won't have. And again, when I mention about being patient, if you've created a really good ad campaign and really good ad groups and tight-knit keywords and really good landing pages, ultimately you're starting off with the right foundation in terms of then being able to historically improve your performance, which again ultimately means less cost per click, more clicks, more people purchasing your products or services, and a higher return on investment because of it. So that's quality score. So let's look at a few campaign strategies. I'm not very good at saying that word. Strategies for starters. So ultimately, as I mentioned, the structure of the account, once you have an account, you then set up a campaign. So there's several ways that you can start to think about how your campaigns work. Ultimately, you start looking at what type of campaign. So do you want a search campaign? Do you want a shopping campaign? Do you want a display campaign? What you then would do is understand what the goal is. So quite obvious for search campaign, the goals are usually traffic to your website, more traffic to your website, and also more conversion. So be it a product sale or a free trial or an inquiry for lead generation. So understanding obviously what goals that you want to look up from a campaign level. What you can also do on a campaign level then is figure out, if I'm going to set up, let's say 2 or 3 campaigns to start with, do I want to target by location? So again, it could be that if you are selling, for example, and you're focusing on different cities, then at a campaign level, you can look up kind of, should I have a campaign for London as opposed to Cardiff, for example? Or even looking at UK campaign to looking at a European campaign. So I'm gonna have a look at what locations, if that's something that you specifically want to focus on or need to focus on, then location is something that you consider from a campaign level. Also, I recommend you start off with manual bidding. You've got an option to do manual bidding or automated bidding. I think from a starter perspective, manual bidding is the best place to start. Again, it's all about getting your feet wet, putting a few campaigns together, as I've got here, no more than 3. And that way you can really start to learn it without being too overawed by all the different options that you have. So then once you've gone into your campaign and you've set up a campaign, actually there is one more thing I want to mention on campaigns that I've forgotten is doing what we call a brand campaign. So where you might have people typing in your brand name because they've heard of you somewhere else. A lot of people ask, is it a good idea because I'm already at the top of Google for my brand name? Obviously, if you have an obscure brand name and you're likely to rank from an SEO perspective at the top, I still think it's a good idea. It's cheap traffic. If your brand name doesn't show at the top, then definitely have an ad there, because people are willing to click on it and go through, and it's a lot less cost per click than it would be obviously for, say, a competitive keyword. But it also means that your competitors, stop your competitors from showing above you as well. So you can do a competitor campaign and your competitors might be bidding on your brand name. So they may not be able to put your brand name within the ad, but they can bid on that specific keyword. So someone typing in your brand name might see their ad, click on it, and for one reason or another go with them rather than go through to your site. So I do recommend having a campaign at a brand level as well, where you're just targeting your brand term. So ad group strategies then. With regards to looking at ad groups, I'd recommend, again, start small, keep it simple, 2 ad groups per campaign. So within those ad groups, then I recommend in having no more than 5 relevant keywords for each ad group. And also stick to exact match type keywords just to begin with. Going back to this whole keep it simple to start with, I think having exact match keywords stops you from showing up for too many search terms that are going to eat into your budget. If you're starting off with a small budget, then and you want to test the water, use exact match type keywords to begin with. And then ultimately you can start adding things like phrase matches in there, having a look, monitoring it, seeing what works, again, test, pivot if it's not working, if it's not bringing you any conversions and any sales. So yeah, I recommend no more than 5 keywords in an ad group, and use 2 ad groups to start. So then looking at ad copy. So this is obviously you've set up your campaign, you've created your ad groups, and now it's time, and you've done your keyword research and you know your audience. Now is the time to start creating ads. So again, if you want to write your own copy, we a lot of time use copywriters. Our clients want to use copywriters as well, because it is powerful to have the right type of words. It might be something that you might think of, but how do you get it down in the least amount of characters to your ad copy that works? So first of all, as I've mentioned, relevance throughout this whole presentation is really important. So being relevant, obviously, for the keyword that you're typing. So making sure that you have those exact phrases within the ads. Someone is typing that exact phrase in, that's the first thing they want to see, is that exact phrase on the ad, which will help them to click through. Also, you've got a thing called site link extensions, as you can see here on the example on the left. Nike's ads, site links extensions. So Nike for men, Nike by you, Nike for women. If you've got multiple products that are, again, relevant to that search term and that initial ad that you've put out there, make sure that you utilize this, because it gives you more real estate. If you're showing for the top of Google, obviously you can see the size on that ad compared to JD Sports below. However, you've also got the option then where you can see the JD Sports one. So if you're not showing at the top, you've still got options to put those links in there. And as you can see from this example, they've used percentage discounts on their site links to help improve the click-through rate and get people to purchase through. And again, just to reiterate, test. So have 2 different ads within your ad groups that are on A/B testing. So if you're targeting, let's say, specific keywords, really get an idea using Google Analytics on which one people are clicking on more. A piece of advice I'd give is don't make the ads too different, because then it's very difficult to understand why one works better than the other. So if you're looking at testing 2 different ads, targeting the same keyword, have really slight variations just to see what works and what doesn't. Also, when you're writing ads and creating ads for the first time, think about your users' objectives. So again, put yourself in the customer's shoe. If they're creating this ad, what's the problem that they might have that you're offering the solution? How will the wording on your ads really resonate with them to get them to click through? So see look at what path or what they're thinking in terms of, okay, if I'm searching for something, if you're putting not just a keyword in there, but you're putting a solution in your ad copy, then it's only going to improve in terms of obviously relevancy, but your click-through rates. Show your personality. As a brand, you're all different. So show your personality within the text on your ads as well. How do you speak to customers normally? Are you more let's say, chilled out as a business, and your customers are more relate to a different tone of voice, for example, than someone from a corporate level. So when you're understanding your personas and you're understanding the type of customers, and you'll all know this as you're speaking to your customers anyway, but understand how they would react to an ad, what kind of words and tone of voice will resonate with your users. And also, you don't always have to sell. So yes, the goal could be conversions, but also the goal might be that if you're running an ad campaign and you're running ads, let's say, for example, your product is a very considered purchase, then ultimately you may not want them to drive a user directly to a sales page. What you might want to do is drive them to an information page, a blog post, for example, a white paper, something that they can get more information to really make that decision. So it doesn't always have to be sell, buy this product. You can, again, goes back to testing, have a campaign that is based around sending, looking at conversions, but also have a campaign where it's driving people to a piece of content or something they can download, because you can track that and understand where they are in that journey. And there is a way to then pull them back into your sales funnel and your sales cycle. So when I talk about don't always sell as well, I mean that in terms of your content on your page as well. Again, it's not all about buy this product off me. It could be that you just want to speak to them from a copy point of view as well, and again, get across your personality. So from a ad copy strategy, these are the top tips that I would give. So once you've set up your campaigns, you've set up your ad copy, you've got your ads live, you've targeted the keywords, you're getting clicks through to your site. Now it's landing page. Again, being relevant, as I mentioned, with quality score is so important. So you're paying for these users to come to your site. You don't want them to click through. If they can't find what they want straight away, they're going to leave and at a cost to you. So giving yourself the best opportunity to get as many users to your site that you're paying for, you want to give them a seamless journey when they get there. Whether that's landing on product pages, but if not, then ultimately you can create specific landing pages based on what those ads are. And again, test the landing pages, test whether it works to have a human face in there, whether you're using arrows to point to a sign up form, whether you've got the right information. But ultimately, send them to a place that's relevant, make it easy for them to purchase or inquire or download a PDF if that's the goal, and really make that journey a lot easier. And the best way to do that is to focus on those landing pages as well as focus on the ads, because ultimately the conversion rate will determine whether you make a 2% ROI or a 1000% ROI. It's crucial to have the right relevant pages and understand exactly how your users are going to go right the way through to a conversion. So nearly coming to the end now, guys. My last slide here is retargeting. It's something that I wanted to mention. Again, it's something that can be spoken about as a whole webinar in itself. I've actually done one on advanced retargeting, but from a basic level, ultimately, if for those that don't know what retargeting is, if you've ever been on a website, whatever you've performed on that website, be it just look at a page or put something in the basket, ultimately you start to see those adverts pop up on different places. So what retargeting does is, with those users coming to your site, stats show that 98% of users won't convert the first time they come on your site. So retargeting is a great method to build pools of different customers based on their journey. And then you can really tailor ads to just the people that have come on your site before. They already know you. They've obviously seen your website. They've seen a product. They may have even gone a step further down the funnel and put that product in a checkout, or they may have landed on a inquiry page but haven't filled out the inquiry form. They may have gone on different pages to look at different services. Each one of these, through Google AdWords and analytics, you can really gather what we call buckets or pools of audiences based on what that journey is. That way you can tailor those ads. So for example, if someone lands on a page and just looks through it and have only been on your website for more than 5 minutes, that's a group that you can target, right the way through to someone that has landed on the page, put something in the basket and haven't gone away. Now, and have gone away without paying. Those types of audiences have obviously gone further down the funnel. So you may want to show them an offer, or give them a free trial, or give them a discount on delivery or free delivery, etc. So you can really tailor your ads based on how where your users have gone on the site. Two options here through Google are display and RLSA, which stands for remarketing lists for search ads. Display ads are basically, display remarketing is they've gone away from your site. They go on a website like Mashable or New York Times or BBC, and all of a sudden they see a display ad. They see an image or a video. And the difference with that to remarketing list for search ads is they've come off your site and they've typed your a keyword in again that's relevant to where they've been. You can target them on search just as well as you can with display. So that's retargeting. Yeah, it's quite a lot to go through in 45 minutes, guys. I just want to say thank you very much for your time and for listening to me. I'm just going to take a look and see if there are any questions in the chat. But also I want to take this time to say, look, if you are starting and that was quite a lot of information for you, if you want any help on your strategy, be it from personas right the way through to how you would structure the account or how you would come up with the right budget, then feel free to book a call with me. I'm more than happy to discuss any possible strategy or ways that I can help in terms of getting you started on Google AdWords. So obviously my email and my LinkedIn are there, so feel free to connect. So let's have a look here. Wow. Okay. Just going to quickly run through to see what these questions are. Question. Okay, with negative keywords, can you use quotes to have negative phrase keywords? Yes, you can. Ultimately, with negative phrase keywords, you can have specific, exact match keywords. So if you've got a phrase that you don't want showing, you can put it through as a negative keyword. So ultimately, yes. Let's have a look. So let's have a look. How did Google assess the relevancy of keywords and how can you improve this? Right. Okay. So sorry about that. Right. Yeah. So by having the keywords in the ad copy, obviously, and on the landing page, Google will take into account things like click-through rates as well. So if you obviously, if your ads are driving a higher click-through rate, then ultimately it's telling Google that your ads are more relevant. Okay, competitors. Can you elaborate on what you said about competitors using your brand name, please? Yes. So ultimately, when you've got competitors that want to target your brand name, what they'll do is they'll set up a campaign and they'll bid specifically on that brand term of yours. So if someone types in your brand name, your ad will show up, their ad will show up at the top. If you're obviously not doing a brand campaign yourself, then their ad will show up, likely show up obviously above your organic listing, for example. And how that works is then, yes, you might be typing in, let's say, for example, hotel, you're typing in booking.com, and then you've got Trivago will show their ad for that search term, booking.com. Now, what they're likely, what they can't do then is actually have your brand name within the advert, but they can show up for it. So it could be looking to book a hotel, and it will be Trivago's ad above yours. So I hope that kind of answers your question in terms of elaborating on it. I'm not sure how much more information you want, but obviously I'm happy to have a conversation about competitor bidding. Ultimately, with competitor bidding though, and I do this as a user, I know that, you know, let's say Trivago are showing an ad, I'm still likely to click on booking.com because I can see it. But there are a lot of users that will just click on the first thing because they've typed in booking.com, they click on it. And again, if they've done it right and they're given a discount or something, then booking.com are obviously going to use, they are going to lose users, should I say. Okay, let's have a look. The auction is a variable. The click cost is a variable. How do you put an absolute limit on your campaign? £100 a click would drain the bank faster than a 100-meter sprinter. Right, okay. Let's have a look. Right. You can put a max CCC cost per click bid on campaigns if more control is needed. So you ultimately maximize how much you want to spend before your ads drop off and you don't show. So you've got full control over your budget. You'll look at budgets from a daily perspective. So if, for example, you're spending, I don't know, £20 a day, once that £20 is spent on clicks, then your advert won't show. So you can fully control it, put a maximum budget in there, CPC budget. So, okay, there's quite a few questions. I'm trying to think of the time now. I've probably gone over the 45 minutes I've mentioned. Is a maximum conversion bid strategy a good idea? Is a maximize conversions bid strategy a good idea? Again, I think it's obviously if you want to maximize your conversions, it's a difficult one. It's always different based on your company, your goals, your users. So it's certainly something to test. As I mentioned, the good thing with this is you can always test different strategies. I've been surprised at how different accounts have been run, even if it's very, very similar industries and very similar companies. So the answer could be yes, it is a good idea, but the answer could be no. It's all about testing, understanding what works, and then yes, going from there. Right, I think I've run over everyone's time, so I do apologize about that. Yeah, I want to just thank everyone for coming on this webinar today. I hope you found a lot of it useful. As I said, I'm more than happy to have a call with anyone that wants to go through anything in more detail or look at your structure, look at your strategy, look at how to get started, etc. So yeah, I just want to say thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate your time. And if there's anything else, anything I can help you with, please feel free to drop me an email, connect with me on LinkedIn. And also I will reach out to everyone with a copy of a link to the copy of the webinar and the slides so you guys can go through it. And yeah, I really hope you guys have a good day and look forward to hopefully speaking to you guys soon. Take care. Cheers. Thank you very much.